Hey there, I didn't want to do a live this week. It's been a bit busy, but I did want to hop on and post a video of just a quick update of what's been happening around here. Main reason I didn't want to do a live is I didn't really feel like playing today. Um, so my apologies for that. I've been very busy and just trying to be transparent with all the things that I'm busy with as I'm moving forward. I'm kind of using this as much as an opportunity to communicate as I am an opportunity to use this as a journal for myself as I'm going through stuff. So in this last week, if you did watch the live video from last week, had a master class at the North Georgia Career Academy last Thursday that went very well, and it was great to see everybody. We had a great time. Mainly talked about a lot of modeling technology since I've been using a lot of that stuff lately, namely the Line 6 Helix. I've got an HX Stomp on my traveling pedal board, and I've recently adopted the Tonex 1, and that has replaced most of the amp blocks inside of my HX Stomp. I'm really happy with it. Had a really great time demonstrating that to everybody, and I brought a laptop so I could show everybody the editor and how that works, because I do find that for people who haven't stepped into the modeler stuff yet, that it looks like it can be a little intimidating with all the menus and options and stuff like that. And I do think that there is something about getting as close to making music as quickly as possible that is certainly most appealing to me with this stuff. So I spent most of the time really dealing with that, just showing off how easy it is to get in and get playing music and get inspired by sounds without too much trouble. So that was that, and then travel went on to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where I had a gig with Falcon Car Wash. It was a festival gig on Saturday. The weather was great. Really great seeing the guys. They're up in Indiana and I'm here in Atlanta, so we get together when we have gigs, essentially. I don't get to come up and travel and practice with them as I would prefer to. So it's really great to see everybody. Really great to play. It was the first time, speaking of the traveling pedal board with the HX Stomp and the Tonex, it's the first time I had used that particular set of patches on a gig, and I feel really good about it. I feel like the sound in the room was really great. I feel like I was really inspired by the sounds, which is the first and foremost thing. Just feeling like you can be connected and actually play some music and not worry about a piece of gear and operating it. The trick is to spend a lot of time working with it to where you can get to the point where you can just be an artist, right? That's kind of the thing. I saw a post about this, and I've certainly lived this way, about practicing, and that you practice to perfection. You don't blow things off in practice. You practice to perfection so that when you get to performance, you can trust that the music is there and the details are there, and you can just let go and be connected and emotional and all of that. Whereas if you practice kind of half-assed and be like, yeah, I got it. Then when you get to the show and you're like, now I got to be perfect, you don't get to enjoy the performance, I find, nearly as much. And I think there's some good advice in that. So if I could remember who said that, I will pass that along. But I just said it. So, and I certainly do live that way. So I hope that's something that you can take with you if you're a practicing musician or practicing artist of any vocation. That spending the time on doing it right is it pays off in dividends in the end of it. Beyond that, the recording of the new single, Learning to Sleep, is complete. Any editing that I needed to do is complete. When I left to go out of town, I did put together sort of a rough working mix that demonstrated the guitars were a little loud, bass was a little loud, because these were some of the things I needed to estimate if I was going to edit them or not. So a lot of time in the car, driving, listening, thinking about what I had recorded. Was I happy with it? I was certainly happy with it to consider that I was done recording, but was I happy with it to call it the final? I did multiple takes as I do, so that I have something to cull from. So I went through, picked my spots, and when I got back to Atlanta, it was Easter. So I came back and had Easter dinner with the cats. Peaches was very happy about that, if you're keeping up with the little ones. Lefty was awfully glad to have her lap back. And then Monday I jumped into doing the final edit. Really didn't have to edit very much. I was pretty happy with what I had done. And by editing, I don't necessarily mean like fixing this record in this particular time from a philosophical standpoint. I'm not interested, and I've always not been interested in trying to fix a performance in a way that betrays the actuality of the humanity of a performance. I firmly believe that it is the idiosyncrasies of the performer that make it unique and interesting, and in that way that becomes what would be a perfect performance, something that is identifiable by the musicians playing it. So if I know something is out of tune when I'm recording it, I re-record it. I go to great lengths to not use auto-tune or Melodyne or any of those things. Also don't like to grid things. If I don't like the way that the rhythm was played, it'll get replayed. That is certainly the thing, and that is a luxury that I do get by having my own recording setup at home. I can do as many takes as it takes to make sure that I'm happy with what I'm doing. So that's what I had on that. So really it was just listening through the takes that I had to see if I had something extra special. And I was explaining this to one of my students in lessons the other night. I'm helping him work on a record as well, that sometimes it's the quote unquote technically perfect take that is a lot of times the least interesting. So I'll find takes that are in tune and in time, and it's what the notes should be, but it's devoid of something a little bit musical, something a little bit dangerous, something just on the edge of sincere emotion. So I find myself when I'm editing these things, like I usually give myself the one to listen to that is the most technically perfect, because that's going to be the right answer. But oftentimes, again, it's a little devoid of the things that I would consider to be the most musical. So I end up going through my other takes and looking for opportunities that are maybe not perfect. Maybe they've got a little something to it it's special. Maybe I got a little overzealous with picking apart, and maybe there's just something special about that. Maybe there's something about the way the guitar feeds back on a note that I hadn't planned for, that in this take I capitalized on, and it made me play the phrase a little differently that was not technically perfect, but there's something special in that performance that is memorable. So just going through, that's what I edited for, was to look for those special places where something really just stood out to me, because I'm really looking for something moment to moment to moment that is engaging to the ear, not exhausting to the ear, but engaging to the ear, that helps tell the story. Much like if you're watching a television show or a movie, everybody involved in that, as you know, from set designers to set painters and carpenters and everything on a set, there's got to be something for the eye to look at everywhere from moment to moment that is refreshing for the audience, continues to tell the story, not just the prime story of the actors maybe in frame, but maybe there's a story to this this door behind the actors, or this car, or this train, or what have you. And a lot of really amazing people have been a tremendous influence on my life in some of those regards, reminding me of these things, that these details, while maybe it's not the most prescient thing right in front of the camera or right in front of the microphone, it may be off to the side, but it has to tell a story as well, that serves the greater picture, that serves the greater story. I think that's the stuff that, certainly for me, when I go back to listen to music by artists that I enjoy, those are the things that keep me going back on repeat listens, because there is something more that I can dredge up out of the story. It helps to edify the lyric. It helps to edify the emotional component of the harmony and the melody, from everybody's performance, production, music, instruments, all of that. So that's what I'm looking for. And this tune in particular, really excited for you guys to hear it. This tune, the main melody is all played with a wah, and that's not something I often do. I find that there are some effects that get a bit tiresome. It's always fun to play a wah, so I'm not saying that that's tiresome in that regard, but because it is a very expressive pedal, using it all the time I find becomes a bit one-dimensional over the arc of many pieces of music. So I think about that when I'm writing set lists, trying not to put songs too close together if they use similar effects, or maybe I'll pick, this one has the wah, this one has a univibe, this one has 8-string, this one has something else. Again, I'm looking for something special for every composition. I'm trying to justify all of these sounds, and some of them are things that I would identify with my particular sound. For example, the Octavia pedal that I use on the title track of my record 2 of 5, the song 2 of 5. Most of that melody is played with the Octavia pedal on the whole time, and I love that sound, and it's kind of become an identifying sound for me that I certainly get from being a giant Jimi Hendrix fan. So I'm paying homage to Jimi when I'm using that, and certainly all of my other guitar heroes that are also massive Jimi Hendrix fans certainly use that pedal as well. So it kind of keeps us in a gang of artists who are all sort of disciples at the altar of Jimi Hendrix and what he created. And that has led to some opportunities when I've done guest solos on other records, where if I want to make sure that I put a sonic stamp on somebody's record that I'm playing on it, that's been a pedal. And this is the one I've used lately. This is a really great one, and it even has this beautifully painted portrait of Jimi right on the pedal. Shout out to MXR for that. This is a really great Octavia pedal. Just love the color of it. It's always inspiring when it's on my board to see those colors and just step into the jelly bread. But anyway, to use something like that as a way of putting a sonic stamp on somebody else's record that they've invited me to perform on. So I've used it in a bunch of cases, and I try not to let it be overused, like something that becomes a trope, kind of like a wah pedal. So I try not to do too much of that. But this particular song, it lent itself to using the wah pedal for the entire melodic performance, and I think that's right. I think it's a very vocalized performance on the guitar. I'm really using the wah as a filter, that also I'm trying to literally talk with it in a way. So I'm using it also to do a bit of articulation and consonance. I can't tell if my computer's getting a little unhappy with me for doing a video that's longer than 10 minutes. So I will try to wrap this up. But anyway, very happy with the way that performance has turned out. So my next thing was to start mixing it this week, and the next day when I got in the studio, fired up, ready to start mixing, one of my monitors started blowing fuses, and I did have some spare fuses and replaced them, and it kept blowing fuses. So I've had to borrow a pair of studio monitors that are not my usual studio monitors, and I do need to take some time and just listen to some music that I'm familiar with so that I know what they sound like, so that I can feel like I can mix accurately. And that's a setback, and it's a pretty major technical setback, but I'm grateful that I have these speakers available to borrow so that I can get this project done, and that I can figure out what the next move is from here in terms of replacing my monitors or getting mine fixed. And it's starting to rain, but that's also partly why I didn't feel like playing today, and wanted to just come on and just put up a video. Just wanting to be very honest about where I am personally. Some of you guys know me and know I've been dealing with a lot of stuff that's prohibited me from feeling like I can work on music. And some of it is not that I haven't been uninspired this whole time, but I get to a place of overwhelm. And accepting the anxiety of these moments is important for me as part of my way of acknowledging it and being kind to myself so that I can work through them, because I'm not beyond them. I am certain that they are going to continue to happen, but I am also certain that I am not going to continue to allow them to stop me from working and creating. So this is really just the fight of my life, going through this stuff. And it's just been a place. So I didn't get the mixing stuff started that I wanted to this week, but the good news is, and part of the overwhelm comes from a really a positive place, which is also terribly confusing for me, that sometimes things are going well, and I end up dealing with this very bizarre thing where maybe I don't feel like I'm deserving, or like my expectation is just that something really terrible is going to happen, so I don't allow myself to enjoy that in quite the way that I probably should. And this song sounds really good. Even without it being fully mixed, it already sounds like a record, to such a degree that listening to it in the working state has really been a pleasure. And that's overwhelming, because I don't know that I was really prepared for that. I thought that this was going to be a really difficult challenge standing up. So some of this is me looking at it and wondering when the big problems are going to happen. So when the monitor issue happened, like, I resolved it quickly without there being a lot of drama over it. So I feel really good about my ability to do that. But I am aware of how my emotional state ramped up with my anxiety, both on the good things of how well this is going, and that there are still going to be challenges that come along that are stumbling blocks and potential barriers to things that I just need to really stay focused and work through. So I did a little bit of writing, which means that this record is called The Light at the End of the World, and there is a title track to this that is in the works. It was looking to be about a 7-track record, and now with this other writing, it's an idea that I had for another project that since I had the downtime, I got the inspiration while I was learning these speakers. So as a way to keep myself positively engaged, I started doing some work on it, and I've given myself something to listen to jump into that. And it's fun. It's probably the most fun song for this collection. Everything else is very emotionally prescient, and exposed, and I think that's really important. And most of what I like to do as an artist is to be very present and use it as sort of emotional therapy to work through stuff. And this doesn't betray that, but it's called Drift into Flow, and it's a phrase that I've had around for years about just trying to stay in a steady state of creativity, where just leaving a guitar out on a stand at any time, I could just pick up a guitar and just create something connected musically, and just be vulnerable, not to be a virtuoso or anything like that, but just to be able at any time to just be able to just drift into this flow state. Not try to turn it on like a switch, but to where I'm always aware of this flow state, to where I can just allow myself to drift in and out of it. So when it becomes overwhelming, I can back off without the fear of losing it, and also drift into it without the fear of not being able to attain it. So it's a bit about that. So it's kind of fun. I'm excited about the way that that's going to turn out as well. I think you guys will enjoy it. It's a little bit more of a bright spot on the record, where the rest is not necessarily dark, but it is. I've been in an aggressive place with my emotional state. My depression has been a lot of anger with myself, a lot of disappointment in myself, a lot of violent thoughts about myself, and that's just a very honest thing. And music is just a way that I'm working through that. And music has always been a way that I have worked through that. Learning how to be accepting of myself in a way where I'm not necessarily concerned about liking myself, but I do think working to be at a place where I can be loving towards myself and accepting of myself is part of all of this. So that's where I am with that. And this week I'm going to go visit my family and discuss all of this stuff that I've been working on. This is kind of a family business, as I'm planning to grow this. I can't do this all on my own. So now I'm right at the place where I need to start asking for help with the things and calling in favors that have been offered to me for years that I've maybe to a fault have never felt like I was worthy of coming to collect on those things, but I'm in a place where now is the time, both personally and professionally. So that's where the news is for this week. So next week I hope to be back and playing a little bit. I'll be getting back from family, hopefully refreshed and renewed and ready to do some mixing, give my ears a good break, and get that work in so that I can the next step after that is really having a release date for the song. The single's going to get released well ahead of the record while I'm working on the rest of it. And if the record is taking longer, I am already working on the second single, and that will be ready to release at the moment when I feel like I'm dragging on too long with the record, because I really want to get this out to you guys and really just get it off of my heart. Because I also have other large music projects that I am chomping at the bit now to really jump into. So I want to get this done. This is an homage to the guitar and my love for the guitar as not my alter ego. It is who I am. So I'm very excited about just getting to serve that and just remember what it is that I do here. And hopefully you guys will enjoy it as well. So thank you for checking this video out. Sorry no playing this week. Sorry there's no chat this week. Maybe I'll do a Facebook Live to do a little bit of a chat. I'm trying to leverage social media in all the ways that I possibly can to get my engagement up so that I do have a better hope of, while I'm not overly concerned about the monetary success of anything that I'm releasing, I'm trying to move through this stuff purely as an artist and release it into the world and let it be what it's going to be. I truly feel in my heart that that's where I am with it now, and I think that's the thing that's allowing me to do the work, since I'm not so worried about that part of it. But I do want to give it its best chance, because I do want to get back to performing my music regularly as well, and I've been talking with musicians that I think will help me with that. Also talking about opportunities for performance, so those announcements will hopefully be coming very soon as well. I'm very excited to be back on stage. The last 8 years of performing has been a bit tepid for me. Not that I ever hold myself back musically in performance, but it has not been the same that it has been historically for me. And the last handful of gigs that I have done now, both corporate gigs and gigs with my projects, they feel a bit more like me. They feel like I've really come back to getting up on my feet. Um, I think that's more if you've seen me perform, what you come to expect of a show um, with me at the helm. So I'm excited to be back into that form. It's certainly got me thinking more about my fitness and my ability to jump around for an entire show, as I do like to put on a very physical performance as well as a very guitar bombast performance as well. So be looking forward to getting that out to you guys as well. All right, now I'm rambling. So thank you guys. I will see you next week. Check my website if you're interested in any lessons or the music that I have released. It's all streaming on my website. It's also all posted here on YouTube and all the places where stuff gets streamed. So please check all of that stuff out. And I will see you guys all again very soon. All right, thank you.